Today I summarize the film entitled Home Again, which was released in 2017. The story is about a widow who needs a father figure for her two children, as well as providing warmth for her. Because had not been in contact for a long time, she decided to bring three young men to his house. Okay, let's start the storyline. At the beginning of the film we are shown a woman, named Alice. 2 months earlier she had just separated from her husband, but they had not officially divorced. Alice has two children named Rosie and Isabel, and today both children gave their mother a birthday surprise on her 40th birthday. After that, Alice rushed to take them to school. Please note that today is their first day of school at their new school. Then we are shown three young men named Harry, George, and Teddy. Currently they have to immediately pay the boarding house rent because time is almost up. They work in the field of filmmaking. Alice is seen receiving a telephone call from her husband, Austin. In this conversation, Alice said that her child always hoped that father would come home, but at that time Austin said he was busy. At the end of the conversation Austin said, "I miss you." On the other hand, the three young men are now meeting their new client named Jason. There they will discuss making the film they will work on themselves. You need to know that they each have their own duties, where Harry is the director, George is the scriptwriter, and Teddy is the actor. Jason plans to contact a producer named Justin Miller to take part in making the film. Justin Miller is quite a famous producer, and yes, they were very happy to hear the news. In the evening, they went to a bar to celebrate their success, where they would soon be partnered with Justin Miller. There Harry accidentally met Alice. At first glance Harry seemed interested in Alice. When Harry was ordering a drink, suddenly Alice came there to order a drink too. Not wanting to waste this opportunity, Harry immediately recognized Alice, and after that they joined at the same table. Harry would pay for everything. Because it was late at night, Alice invited the three young men to go home. In the morning George was seen waking up. He intended to look for a toilet to wash his face, but at that time he entered a room which contained equipment for filmmaking, and not only that, George also saw an award trophy in the room. Meanwhile, Alice's mother, Lillian, comes home with Rosie and Isabel. At that time they went straight to Alice's room to meet her, but there they were very surprised because a man came out of her mother's room. Alice immediately gave the excuse that the man had just repaired the AC in her room. When she found out that her mother was at home, Alice was surprised because currently there was a stranger in her house. Then Harry came there, and at that moment Harry thought he had seen Lillian but didn't know where. George suddenly said from behind that Lillian was the wife of a famous director, none other than John Kenny. Alice, who was surprised to hear the explanation, asked, "How do you know that?" Then George explained that this morning he accidentally entered the room where there were photos of John Kenny and filming equipment. After that, Lillian invited them to enjoy fresh orange juice while telling stories about John Kenny. Not long after, Alice said goodbye because she had to meet a client and take her child to school. When Alice came out, Harry suddenly approached her and asked for Alice's telephone number. However, Alice did not give her telephone number, because she felt that the age difference between them was quite large. Alice is seen meeting with her client. It should be noted that currently Alice's job is as a home decorator, and at that time the client asked for Alice's services to decorate a room with a children's concept. But the client asked Alice to do it next week. Alice immediately went home. When she got home, Alice was surprised because still saw the three young men in her house, even though in her mind Alice thought they had left the house. Seeing all this, Alice then approached Lillian to immediately tell them to go home, but at that time Lillian asked Alice to let them stay in this house, and Lillian hoped that she could give them a little knowledge about the world of films. At first Alice didn't allow it, because her two children had difficulty getting along with strangers, but while they were arguing, Alice suddenly heard the sound of her children playing with them outside the house. Seeing this, Alice finally gave permission and she prepared a room for them to rest. Of course, this made them very happy, because as seen at the beginning, they could no longer afford their boarding house. Alice and Harry were seen talking in the yard, where Harry said that he was interested in Alice, but at that time Alice stated that she only considered Harry as an ordinary friend. After that, Alice met George, who was in her father's room, where Alice showed him several valuable items left by her father, and not only that, Alice also told about her personal life. Alice said that she had been separated from her husband for 2 months. Alice also said that her husband's current job is as a music producer. While they were talking, suddenly a client called and asked to meet. At the same time Alice had to take Isabel to guitar school. George, who had lots of time, offered to take Isabel to the course, but at that time George said that he didn't have a car. Hearing all this, Alice lent her the car left by her father. While on the trip, Isabel said that she had been chosen to take part in an art performance at school. George praised him and said that the students selected were talented students. However, while he was talking, suddenly his cell phone rang, and it turned out to be a client. During the conversation, George was asked to immediately write a film script that would soon be worked on, but at that time the client only needed George, without the intervention of Harry and Teddy. This news confused George, but at that time Isabel said this was a good opportunity for the future. After Alice arrived home, she was surprised to see them preparing food, and not only that, now Alice was invited to go to the backyard, and it turned out there was an even bigger surprise there. They had prepared a place to relax, and a screen showing films produced by her late father. After the event was over, Harry approached Alice in the kitchen to help wash the dishes. There Alice was very grateful to Harry for preparing tonight's surprise, and all this made her happy. The next day Alice and her friend will go to the client's house. On the way, Alice was invited to come to her friend's house with Harry. At first Alice refused because Harry wasn't ready for Alice, but her friend kept persuading her, until finally Alice came. After arriving at the client's house, Alice was greeted by a woman. She introduced herself that she was a decorator, and was currently doing her work in the house. Alice was shocked and immediately went home. When she got home, Alice immediately told Teddy about her bad experience. She looked very annoyed because Felt had been cheated by his client, but luckily at that time Teddy had made a website for Alice and that made a little of his irritation disappear. Harry asks Alice to talk outside. There Harry invited Alice to accompany him to meet his producer, Justin Miller. However, it turned out that the invitation coincided with an event that would be held at a friend's house. Alice said that she would invite Harry to the event. At that time Harry promised to come to the party after finishing his meeting with the producer. That evening, Alice was seen attending a party alone, while on the other hand Harry was having a meeting with a client. Harry took the time to tell Alice the news, but this situation was beyond Harry's expectations. At that time another client joined Harry's table and of course that would slow down time. He had to meet Alice immediately. Alice was seen crying. She felt disappointed with Harry because his words at that time were not followed. In the morning, Harry, feeling guilty, immediately approached Alice. There he explained the reason why he didn't come to the party, but Alice was already disappointed and didn't want to hear any excuses from Harry. Luckily at that time Rosie came to invite Harry to play, so the argument didn't drag on. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Isabel, who already considers George to be her older brother, said that next week there will be an art show. Isabel hopes that George can come and see it in person. In the afternoon Alice was having dinner with another man. There Alice saw a client who was playing with her. Then Alice approached and at that moment Alice broke off cooperation with the client. After finishing dinner, Alice was left alone by the man. Not long after that, George came to pick up Alice. Alice has now been taken home, but when she arrived at the front of the house, she was surprised because Austin was already there. Alice then invited Austin into the house, where Austin said that wanted to improve her relationship with Alice, but at that time Alice did not really respond to these words. In the morning, it seemed like they were going to have breakfast soon. There Austin completely mastered the conversation, and to win Alice's heart, Austin invited her to dinner with her 2 children. When Alice was about to leave with Austin, suddenly George, Teddy, and Harry entered Alice's room one by one. There they expressed their concerns. They did not want Austin to return with Alice, and they concluded that if Austin returned here they would be thrown out, even though for now they were very comfortable living there. The next day, Harry accidentally saw George writing another film script without Harry's knowledge. Now he concluded that George had betrayed him. Not long after, Teddy came with a paper script to audition alone. After that Harry decided to leave the house. He was no longer comfortable there. Alice started to distance herself from him, and now friends are betraying him. In the afternoon, Austin tried to get closer to Teddy. He tried to give Teddy advice, but at that time something was said that offended Teddy's feelings, so in the end they had a fight. When the situation was chaotic, George and Alice arrived, and their Teddy was not given the opportunity to explain, while Austin stated that Teddy was the one who started the commotion. Hearing all this, Alice, full of disappointment, threw them out of the house. George and Teddy decided to go to Harry's house to apologize and promise to continue the film project that had been postponed. Alice then approached Isabel and Rossi, then Isabel asked with teary eyes as if she was about to cry. "Aren't they coming back?" Alice says yes, maybe they won't be back forever. On the other hand, they now seem to be working hard so that their film project is completed quickly. Unexpectedly, today Alice met Harry at his residence. She told him that was now officially divorced from Austin. Today Isabel will appear on the school stage. Alice and the others have been there from the start, but not the three young men. Isabel kept looking at the empty chairs. She hoped they were occupied by Harry, Teddy and George. Meanwhile they were meeting with Justin Miller. There he plans to replace Teddy as the main character. Not accepting those words, Harry decided to stop working with him. They immediately went to Isabel's school. They are now in the school building. George rushes to look for Isabel behind the stage. Isabel was about to appear. She kept looking for George. Isabel looked very nervous, until finally George reached the edge of the stage. He immediately called Isabel softly to encourage her. After seeing George present, Isabel's confidence returned and Isabel was able to put on her best performance on stage. To celebrate Isabel's success, they held a dinner at home. Everyone there looked very happy. Thank you for watching. Subscribe now for other interesting content. See you in the next video.